you think AI is just ChatGPT writing SQL for you, you're missing the real shift. Because AI is not just answering questions anymore, it's pulling data, checking it, fixing the query, building the chart, drafting the insight. And that's not just a tool, that's going to be a future virtual coworker. There are 5 specific analyst tasks that this coworker is coming for first. Some of them you probably spend most of your week on. In this video, I'm going to break down the 5 analyst tasks that are getting automated or sped up hard right now, and one of them comes with a warning that I wish people were more honest about. I'll also show you the research that most people in this space haven't seen yet, data on how fast AI agents are improving. The acceleration surprised even the researchers that are tracking it. And by the end, you'll know exactly which parts of an analyst job are getting cheaper and which parts are about to become more valuable. And that split is the whole game right now. I currently work as a business analyst consultant at a Fortune 5 company. I've reviewed resumes, sat on interview panels, conducted technical interviews, and I'm not just watching AI from the sidelines. I've spent 6 days straight deploying one of the fastest growing open source agent frameworks in the world, building, breaking, stress testing it. And that is just one of the things that I do on a daily basis. So I'm here on the ground building with AI every day. And what I'm about to share isn't theory, it's what I'm seeing from inside the work. Also, I'm on a mission to help 10,000 people break into data analytics. If that's you, hit the subscribe button because each week I share practical strategies to help you land your data job. Now, most career switchers are asking the wrong question. They're asking, will AI replace analysts? And it's not because they're not paying attention, but it's because every headline makes it sound like robots are coming for your job. And nobody's explaining what actually changes. And here is the better question. Which part of an analyst job becomes cheaper and which parts are now going to change and become more valuable? So this is a way that I want you to think about it and how I'm thinking about it myself. I think about it in this way. Because of AI, there's going to be actions that would be cheap and then actions that are more valuable to have a human do it. And you have to start thinking about what are things that are going to be cheap. It's going to be syntax. So knowing how to write SQL in the way that you need, because you don't need to memorize syntax anymore. And even syntax before, for those of you who know and who were getting into this, some people think that when you're a programmer or developer that you memorize the syntax of everything. But what ends up happening is when you're on the job and you're working on a project and you can't get through a specific problem, what you do is you Google it. You go on Stack Overflow, you go on forums, you ask friends, they send you code, you practice, and you just test stuff. You don't need to do that anymore. Or it becomes significantly easier with AI. The other things that you need to think about is repetitive reports. There's going to be certain parts of reporting that are just going to change because AI can just do it better, or AI can run the automations that you build, or upper management can just take the data that you have and then create their own ad hoc reporting based off that. Now, on top of this, you have to also think, what else is there? There's going to be basic cleanup. There's going to be standard summaries, especially standard summaries. That's like one of the biggest things that AI can do right now is summarization. Now you have to think about what is valuable. What can a human do that AI can't do? Or what do we need? One of the first things is there's always going to be someone who needs to be accountable. If the AI breaks, it creates a mistake that causes millions of dollars. Who's responsible for that? You need somebody that's held accountable for monitoring the systems and to make sure that they're accurate. The other thing too is defining direction. You need someone who can define direction, where to place the AIs, in what direction, what problem are they solving, what do the metrics actually mean? Because one of the biggest things that's happening right now is that AI is pretty good at what it does, but the humans directing AI aren't. So one of the things that they're finding, one of the ways is the humans directing AI in the wrong direction, solving the wrong problem. So now this becomes something that's more valuable is can you define the problem and solve the right problem for the business? Next is also catching output when it's wrong. So wrong output. This means that we need accuracy. If you know anything about AI, it's basically built on probabilities. It's more complex than that, but it's going to be built on probabilities, which means that the same inputs are not going to have the same outputs. So what that means is we get to things where the AI can reason and it makes sense and it's feasible, but it's factually wrong. So you need to put in safeguards. You need to have other non-deterministic or deterministic checks, which means like it's going to be like your standard programming where the same inputs mean the same outputs. So you can verify that the AI's output is correct. So that's going to be more valuable, being able to marry both AI systems and older deterministic systems to be able to see that, yes, what AI is outputting and the teams of AI is correct. And then also the translation. When users, people who request stuff, upper management, they come with a request and a problem, what they're requesting isn't actually what they're requesting. If you give it to AI is going to give you exactly what their specifications are, but you have to read in between the lines and then dig deeper to figure out, is this really what they want or is this something else? So being able to translate requirements is going to be another skill that is going to be more valuable moving on. And the biggest one, again, is just accountability and if everything goes wrong. So that's the split. And if you position yourself on the right side of the split, you're going to become the person that teams can't function without. So let's talk about the 5 tasks that landing on the cheap side is what AI is going to start doing more in the future. But first, let's define some of the terms. You've probably heard of GenAI versus agentic AI, or just think of it first as an AI agent. For generative AI, this means it can generate text, code, summaries, drafts, and then you ask it, it answers. So just think ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. Now, an AI agent means a system that can take actions towards a goal. So that it has access to tools, and then it can do it autonomously or semi-autonomously with limited human supervision. So the difference is that Gen AI basically talks, agents are going to do and take action. An agent can't just answer your question, doesn't just answer your question, it calls tools, it can query a database, it can read a file, it can run a validation check, call an API to a website, fix its own errors. So when you think about this, think of AI simply, or think of agents simply as the LLM model plus the tools they have access to, and then any rules, safeguards that are in place. So if you remember anything from this section, just remember this: agents are not magic. Agents are just a model plus tools plus rules. And the person who writes the rules is going to be you. This is going to be the future of managing AI. It's going to be eventually directing AI and managing a team of agents. And here is where things are getting wild, because I need to show you that most people have no idea how fast this is accelerating. There's a research organization called METR. Their whole job is measuring what AI agents can do on their own, no human help, fully autonomous, and they've been tracking this since 2019. What they measure is something called time horizon. In simple terms, how long of a task can be completed by an agent can be completed by itself with a 50% success rate. In 2019, agents could handle tasks that took humans a couple of seconds. By early 2025, agents were completing tasks that took skilled humans over 6 hours. Now, the trend, the length of tasks that AI can handle has been doubling roughly every 7 months. But in 2024 to 2025, it's accelerated even more. Now it's down to about every 4 months. Let's put this into real terms so we can see the severity of what's actually happening. Anthropic's Claude Sonnet 4.5 can now maintain focus on complex coding tasks for over 30 hours straight. One development team documented that an AI agent was operating for over 3 weeks. It migrated a whole entire code base, 266,000 lines of new code, 193 lines were removed without human intervention between the checkpoints. The researchers themselves were surprised, said the pace surprised them, and doubling time is now getting shorter, not longer. This is not coming. This is here, and it's compounding faster than we all believe. Now, within that context, here are the 5 analyst tasks that are getting hit first. Agents are going to hit the tasks that are repeatable, tool-based, with low ambiguity first. So going back, it's not, the first one I see is not just in here, but it's going to be SQL drafting. And don't think about just SQL, it's going to be anything drafting. SQL could be Python, SQL could be VBA. It's also, I've been experimenting with building models in Excel, complex models, and then just giving the requirements. And then now it's spitting out multiple tabs with everything that I need for the model, or at least 80% there, which is crazy. So it's going to come to the point where you describe the metric in detail. Agents are going to draft whatever tool you're working. Here, it's SQL because a lot of us work in SQL, but it's going to be anything that you're working on. It fixes errors in real time. It troubleshoots on its own. I've seen this work. It's not perfect, but it's fast and it figures out when it goes wrong. The days of spending 45 minutes, half a day, a full day debugging complex SQL are numbered. It's getting faster, it's getting smarter, and it's starting to replicate work that I used to do significantly faster in speeds that I wasn't sure was capable previously. Now, the next thing is going to be data QA, but not primary data QA. Now, here's where I need to be honest with you for a little bit, because this is important. QA means quality assurance. Did the data break? And yes, agents can check for missing values, duplicates, weird spikes, things that would take an hour of eyeballing or just checks. But AI is based on probability. It can hallucinate. So even if it's 1% of the time wrong, in a highly regulated industry like healthcare, that 1% data point being wrong means millions of dollars depending on what it affects, or lives in the worst case. I've personally seen a tiny data mistake lead to that type of impact where millions of dollars have been lost. So yes, it's going to be able to help with data QA, but as a secondary data QA check. I'm not handing it my primary QA and data validations over to AI when my own validation systems are more reliable. But using AI to help me build those validation systems to get off the ground faster, that is where the actual use case is. And as long as you have enough foundation and skill to know what needs to be built and that it's actually working to validate other systems, this is where it becomes crazy and you can start passing people and building a lot faster. That distinction is what matters, and it matters a lot. So it's not data QA, it's actually data QA building those systems. Next one is recurring reporting. And when I say this, it's not going to be like the complex reporting that requires multiple requirements gathering meetings where everyone just talks about the process and we watch somebody go on the screen and then we painstakingly watch the users go through their process and everything that's manual. And then you have to go through all of that documentation. Then you have to go through additional meetings with subject matter expert and then their feedback of all the edge cases and nuances. I'm not talking about those recurring reporting, the complex reporting, but I'm talking about the reporting that's already standardized, that's set, and that you can feed to AI to generate the reports instead. Again, you have to have safeguards and validations that are outside of AI to double check all of this. But once it's up and running and you have those validation systems in there, that you can have AI run it on top of it, or you could just write it yourself just to double check that it's correct. These recurring reports will go to AI. Think weekly dashboards, monthly PowerPoints, where the same story, same numbers. Now you can have AI agents start to run those systems, those tools to generate those reports. Now, the report that used to take you half a day every Monday, now an AI could draft that in potentially minutes. And then you could build the validation systems to double check its work just in case it hallucinates in some of those cases. The next thing, and this is one of my favorite things because I hated doing this, is documentation. I hate writing documentation because I like building. I don't want to have to put in past put in the level of depth that people need for the tools that I built because I just want to keep building. But now that we have I can give it my code. I can give my high level thinking, all the different queries. I can give it enough. And then I can give it files. It can start writing definitions, data dictionaries, requirements docs, high level processes, SOPs, work instructions, all the tedious work that I hated and I avoided. AI agents can start doing it without complaining and make it better than I ever could because I just didn't want to work on this type of stuff. Same with documentation and commenting in code. Things like I would leave simple documentation, enough for me to understand it, but not enough for someone else to come inside the code and understand what it was doing. Now I can have AI help me comment what this specifically is doing in greater detail for someone who's new to my code base. So that if I go on PTO, it'll be easier for someone to come in and look at it and then know what's happening and troubleshoot if needed. Now, the other thing that I'm doing, and I found this in greater detail, is exploratory analysis. And I've been doing this a lot with AI, especially deep research within ChatGPT and Claude. Gemini. What I mean by exploratory analysis is it'll have a data set and then you can have ad hoc reports ran on it. Again, you have to know when AI is hallucinating, but then you have to have checkpoints. You can build that into your prompts with AI. You can have it show your work, show me all your reasoning, consider all of these edge cases, and then you can build those in so that it's easier for you to double check that the analysis makes sense. But if it gets you 80% of the way there, and you just need to make up for the 20% where it's wrong, it's saving you significantly more time. The other places where I'm using this is outside of work or even for some parts of work where I don't understand the technical, what they're explaining or the technical aspects of of various things they're talking about. I have AI talk about all the exploratory analysis that I would need to know so that I could be able to understand it at a deeper level. Also with understanding finance, there are things that I know from trading that I've learned at a deeper level. I understand it that now I can have it do fundamental analysis, technical analysis, and then for different assets in the market. And it's as good as some of the people that I've worked with and some of the traders that I know. It's getting that good. And then there's places where like things won't make won't make sense. But when you have the solid foundation, it gets you most of the way there. And then you just tweak the analysis and you start correcting it. And then you add in your own checks and then you make it better. And then you can have this exploratory analysis that would take you forever previously, but now you'll get all the raw material, and then you'll be able to have AI do a lot of the checks and a lot of the math. Even though the math may be wrong, you can start adding in the reasoning and line by line calculations to make it make sense. And when this would have taken a long time previously. And then here's the catch though with AI and agents, they struggle with messy definitions, simple definitions where you don't add enough detail, politics of what's happening inside the business, and what do people actually want from what do stakeholders actually want in the communication. They struggle with the human interpretation and ambiguity of everything. And that is where your advantage is, and that's where you become more valuable. Now let's bring this all full circle. Look at the 5 tasks that I just listed: SQL drafting, QA checks, recurring reports, documentation, exploration. And now look at the valuable column: the board, defining metrics, catching errors, translating messy requests, and owning decisions. What is the pattern? Everything getting automated is about the execution. Everything that becomes more valuable is the judgment. You need someone to make the judgment, to make the decisions, and to direct AI in the right direction. The analysts who can only execute, their job is getting replaced and getting cheaper by the month. But the analysts who can supervise agents, validate their output, and do their own independent checks, and then also can make sure the whole thing is aimed in the right problem and in the right direction, that is the person who evolves and the person that will stay and keep their job. That trust is what is getting you hired and what is going to help you stay hired in the future. If you want real healthcare analytics experience and advice of how to actually break into the industry, that's what we're doing inside the Healthcare Automation Lab. Link is in the description. And if you're serious about landing your first data job, subscribe, because each week I share practical strategies that most career content leaves out. So thanks for watching, and until next time, career responsibly, and watch this next video on how I learned security engineering in 6 days. Watch that now.